Imagine a world built with $10 billion, only to be met with absolute silence. Before you are colossal roller coaster tracks and steel wonders worth hundreds of millions. Yet, the only things moving here aren't tourists, it's just the swirling dust and the scorching desert sun. This isn't a set from a post-apocalyptic Hollywood blockbuster. This is just a typical Tuesday afternoon in Dubai. Over the past decade, the leaders of this emirate have bet everything on an extravagant dream, transforming the desert into the Orlando of the Middle East. They built faster, higher, and more expensively than anyone else on the planet. But there is one thing money couldn't buy: the presence of people. Behind the neon signs and Guinness World Records lies a grim, hidden truth. A debt crisis is silently eroding the foundations of this city of the future. Why did these mega projects turn into multi-million-dollar steel graveyards? And what happens when the illusion of limitless wealth begins to fade? Let's step through the gates of these ghost parks to find the answer to Dubai's $10 billion black hole. Voice powered by VB.VN. Look closely at the Dubai skyline. You see the shimmering glass, the record-breaking spires, and the gold-plated luxury. But look down into the shifting sands of the outskirts, and you'll see something the brochures won't show you: a $10 billion graveyard made of steel and plastic. Imagine a drone soaring over a $20 million roller coaster. There is no screaming, no laughter, only the haunting whistle of the desert wind through rusted iron skeletons. These machines were built to house thousands of families. Today, they house only dust. To the casual tourist, this is just a failed theme park. But to the global banks and institutional investors, this is a black hole. For decades, Dubai operated on a single, arrogant economic doctrine: build it, and they will come. They defied nature, they defied the climate, and they tried to outspend the giants like Disney and Universal. But the desert has its own rules, and the real economy is unforgiving. These empty parks aren't just a marketing failure, they are the first visible cracks in a grand illusion. But here's the terrifying part: these silent roller coasters are just the tip of the iceberg. The same silence found in these ghost parks is now creeping into the heart of the city, into the dark windows of empty skyscrapers that dominate the horizon. What happens when the world's most ambitious city runs out of people to fill its dreams? To find out, we have to look behind the luxury facade and into the hidden crisis of Dubai's massive debt. Experience AI voice technology at VB.VN. Why is Dubai so obsessed with being number one? To understand the ghost parks of today, we have to travel back to the intoxication of 2010. Following the global financial crisis, Dubai didn't just want to recover, it wanted to dominate. This was the era of peak ambition. Oil prices were soaring, capital was flowing like a desert river, and the directive from the top was clear: if it isn't the biggest, the tallest, or the most expensive on earth, don't build it. Between 2010 and 2016, a fever took over the city. The goal? Transform a patch of sand into the Orlando of the Middle East. In a matter of years, giant structures began to pierce the horizon. IMG Worlds of Adventure rose as a climate-controlled beast the size of 28 soccer fields. Right next to it, Dubai Parks and Resorts erupted, a $3.5 billion empire featuring MotionGate's Hollywood glamour, the colorful bricks of Legoland, and the world's first ever Bollywood-themed park. It was a blitzkrieg of construction. But here is the economic insight most people miss: Dubai wasn't just selling park tickets. This wasn't about $10 hot dogs or souvenirs. They were selling a vision. By building these gargantuan landmarks, Dubai was signaling to the world's elite, to Wall Street, and to global hedge funds that this was the safest, most vibrant place for foreign direct investment, FDI. These parks were the ultimate loss leaders: massive, shiny bait designed to inflate real estate prices and lure international capital into the desert. VB.VN, Vietnam's leading text-to-speech solution. For a moment, the world believed the hype. The cranes never stopped moving, and the projections claimed 20 million tourists would soon flood these gates. It felt like a miracle of modern engineering and finance. But there is a fatal flaw in building a civilization based on superlatives. When your entire economy is fueled by the arrogance of the biggest, rather than the reality of actual demand, You aren't building a future, you're building a trap. And as the sun began to set on the era of easy money, Dubai was about to realize that $1 billion check can buy a landmark. But it cannot buy a soul. The stage was set for a masterpiece. Instead, they got a $10 billion bloodbath. And the first signs of the collapse weren't found in the ledgers, but in the one thing money couldn't control: the weather. There is a fatal flaw in the belief that money can solve every problem. Dubai's planners had $10 billion, but they couldn't fix a fundamental mistake that even the deepest pockets in the world couldn't bypass: the lack of soul. Think about Orlando or Anaheim. People don't just visit Disney or Universal for the rides, they go for the emotional tether. They go to cry at Cinderella's castle or feel the magic of Hogwarts. This is Tier A intellectual property, brands that have been woven into the fabric of human childhood for nearly a century. Dubai, however, tried to build an empire on Tier B scraps. They bought the rights to the Hunger Games, the Smurfs, and Hotel Transylvania. They are fine movies, but nobody, absolutely nobody, spends $5 on a transcontinental family flight just to see a Smurf. Without an emotional hook, a theme park is just a collection of expensive plastic and rattling gears. It's generic, it's cold, it's a store-brand version of a dream. And then, there is the silent killer that no engineering could defeat: the desert sun. In Florida, it's hot, but the rain cools the air. In Dubai, for 5 months of the year, the thermometer screams past 113 degrees Fahrenheit, 45 degrees Celsius. The pavement doesn't just radiate heat, it attacks you. Metal railings become branding irons. The air feels like a physical weight on your chest. While AMG Worlds tried to hide inside a massive air-conditioned box, others like Bollywood parks left visitors to bake in the open sun. In the high-stakes world of the experience economy, experience is king. But Dubai made a catastrophic pivot. They turned experience into endurance. When your customers are focusing on surviving heatstroke rather than enjoying the ride, your business model isn't just failing, it's dead on arrival. Tourists tried it once, suffered, and told the world to stay away. The world's biggest tag couldn't save them from the world's harshest reality. Vietnam's top text-to-speech solution from VB.VN. But as the crowds vanished and the heat intensified, a much colder chill began to settle over the boardroom tables. Because as bad as the weather was, it paled in comparison to the structural rot hiding within the company's balance sheets. If you want to find the truth in Dubai, don't look at the Instagram feeds. Look at the cash flow. Because while the lights are still on, the banks are seeing a bloodbath. The story of DXB Entertainments, the parent company behind these mega parks, isn't just a business failure, it's a financial autopsy. In 2018, the company posted a staggering loss of over $272 million. By 2019, the bleeding only intensified. Shareholders watched in horror as their value evaporated. The stock price plummeted by more than 90%, rendering it virtually worthless. This wasn't a slow decline, it was a freefall. But the ultimate symbol of this disaster isn't a spreadsheet, it's the dust where Bollywood parks once stood. Imagine spending hundreds of millions of dollars to build a replica of the Taj Mahal and world-class attractions, only to bring in the excavators less than 7 years later. They didn't just close it, they erased it. They scrapped the rides and leveled the buildings to save on taxes and maintenance. This is the definition of systemic value destruction. Investors' capital didn't just underperform, it literally turned into rubble and sand. The insight here is chilling. Dubai's model of endless growth was financed by mountains of debt, predicated on visitor numbers that were mathematically impossible to achieve. They handed out thousands of free tickets just to make the parks look alive for the cameras. But you can't pay back billions in construction loans with free passes. Vietnam's top text-to-speech solution from VB.VN. This level of destruction is what happens when a government tries to force a market into existence through sheer willpower and borrowed money. The $10 billion was spent. The parks are empty. The value is gone. Which leads us to a terrifying question that is currently shaking the foundations of the Middle East's financial hub. If the parks aren't making money, and the investors have fled, who is actually left holding this massive, suffocating debt? The answer takes us beyond the theme park gates and into a brewing sovereign debt crisis that could reshape the future of the Emirates. In the delicate ecosystem of Dubai's economy, a theme park is never just a theme park. It is a pulse check. When those parks fall silent, it signals a cardiac arrest in the sector that keeps this city breathing: real estate. We are now witnessing the first stage of a brutal domino effect. Think about it. The same logic that built the $10 billion ghost parks also built the glittering forests of steel in downtown and the marina. For years, the world was told that Dubai's growth was infinite. But as you drive away from the empty gates of Motion Gate, you start to notice a disturbing symmetry in the city center. You see the ghost towers, colossal luxury skyscrapers where the lights only flicker on in the lobby, while the hundreds of apartments above remain dark, cold, and uninhabited. Recent data suggests a staggering supply-demand mismatch. Developers keep building for a population of millionaires that simply isn't growing fast enough to fill the void. Here is the cold, hard economic insight. Dubai's entire GDP is built on the architecture of confidence. This is a faith-based economy. As long as people believe the city is growing, the capital flows. But the moment that confidence shatters, the moment the world realizes the tourists aren't coming to the parks and the tenants aren't coming to the towers, the dominoes start to tumble. First, the entertainment sector bleeds. Next, the hospitality industry starves. Finally, the real estate market, the very backbone of the Emirates, cracks under the weight of its own overproduction. Text-to-speech platform by VB.VN. When supply becomes a mountain and demand remains a molehill, the miracle in the desert starts to look like a classic acid bubble. We are seeing a massive transfer of risk from private developers back to the state-linked banks, creating a ticking time bomb of non-performing loans. The silence in the theme parks was the warning shot. The darkness in the skyscrapers is the symptom. But for anyone who remembers the year 2008, this isn't just a business cycle. It's a nightmare returning from the grave. Back then, Dubai was hours away from total sovereign default before a last-minute bailout from Abu Dhabi saved the day. The question we must ask now is, with $10 billion already buried in the sand, is history about to repeat itself on an even more catastrophic scale? Is Dubai a miracle of the 21st century, or just the world's most expensive mirage? To answer that, we have to look east, to the collapse of Evergrande in China. The parallels are bone-chilling. Both built their empires on the build-transfer model, fueled by astronomical debt and the assumption that the world's appetite for luxury concrete would never end. But as China learned the hard way, when you build a hollow economy, one that creates supply without organic demand, the correction isn't just a recession. It's a funeral. Here is the twist. Dubai's biggest risk isn't just empty theme parks or dark skyscrapers. It's the flight of capital. Dubai's prosperity isn't rooted in the soil, it's rooted in movement. It depends on being a safe haven for international cash. But in a world of rising interest rates and geopolitical shifts, that cash is starting to look for the exit. If the Dubai brand loses its luster, if the world starts seeing these ghost projects not as growing pains, but as terminal rot, the foreign direct investment that keeps the desert green will dry up overnight. This audio is synthesized using AI technology from VB.VN. What we are witnessing is a battle for the soul of the city. To prevent a total market panic, the Dubai government has been forced into a desperate game of financial hide and seek. By delisting companies like DXB Entertainments from the public stock exchange. They aren't fixing the debt, they are simply moving it behind a curtain, away from the prying eyes of international analysts and short sellers. The worst-case scenario? Dubai becomes a living museum of hubris. A city of majestic, empty monuments where the cost of maintenance exceeds the GDP. A place where the world's tallest buildings stand as 160-story tombstones for a debt-fueled dream that finally ran out of credit. The Emirati Vision 2030 was supposed to be a transition away from oil. But it may have accidentally created a transition into a permanent debt trap. But there is one final secret the authorities are desperate to keep under wraps. It's the answer to the question, how much time do they actually have left before the mirage finally fades? Dubai stands as a monumental lesson for the modern world. a testament to the sheer arrogance of capital. For decades, we watched in awe as this city defied every law of nature and economics. But as the sun sets over the silent gears of Motion Gate and the rubble of Bollywood parks, the glittering LED lights of the Burj Khalifa begin to feel less like a celebration and more like a distraction. You cannot build a sustainable future on a foundation of Guinness World Records alone. A real economy requires more than just the biggest or the first. It requires organic demand, emotional resonance, and a soul that money simply cannot buy. When you bypass these fundamental truths in favor of debt-fueled spectacles, you don't create a sanctuary, you create a ticking clock. These $10 billion ghost parks are not just failed business ventures, they are the early warning sirens of a financial storm gathered on the desert horizon. They prove that while you can buy the world's attention with a checkbook, you cannot force the world to stay. As the desert slowly begins to reclaim the steel and plastic of these abandoned dreams, we are left with one chilling realization. In the race between infinite ambition and finite reality, reality always wins. Dubai's empty parks and dark skyscrapers aren't just a local crisis. They are a mirror reflecting the fragility of our global obsession with growth at any cost. The mirage is fading, and for the city of gold, the silence is becoming deafening. This audio is synthesized using AI technology from VB.VN.